The first thing I want you to do is choose your first name and your last name and just spell them.
Okay, just like right now, or
Yes, right now.
okay. Jonathan Hale, and it's JOHNATHAN, then space for my last name, HALE,
Okay.
not HELL. I'm just kidding.
Okay. And when you did your Ed TPA, were you a student teacher or an intern?
I was an intern.
And what school were you interning?
I was interning at Aspen Elementary,
And what grade?
5th grade.
Fifth grade. Okay. So I want you to think back on your whole kind of Ed TPA experience
Yeah.
and tell me, what do you think was the purpose why do you think this School of Education asked you to complete this assessment?
Awesome. Well, I think by far, heads in it. Am I supposed to be looking at you, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay. By far and above none, I think it's just prepares you to become a better teacher. I think without a doubt, everything you learn in Ed TPA is applicable to the classroom. You're supposed to plan well. You're supposed to create good instruction, and you're supposed to assess children. And that's really all Ed TPA is doing, is asking you to be a good, effective teacher. So, yeah.
Okay. And so as you think back over your own experiences with it, can you see now any benefits that you got from doing that experience?
Big time. I think instead of just like kind of the research aspect of just thinking of how things connect to research, I think that has just influenced my classroom in a major way. Just things like, instead of just like randomly doing things because it sounds good or whatever, I'm able to find something that actually has been tested and proven in other situations via research and apply it to the classroom. And most of the time, those things I found during Ed TPA, when I apply those things into the classroom, my teaching becomes better. Kids' test scores become better. Management becomes a little bit easier. That's always a struggle, but it always becomes easier as you apply tested theory. And that was a huge thing that I read a lot of things from Ed TPA that I was able to apply into the classroom via the research side of it. So,
And as you worked on your Ed TPA assessment, can you think of any special challenges that presented for you?
like kind of like working on Ed TPA while doing like an internship type thing. Like, yeah, I think time was definitely a factor. The joke that would always joke with people, say, "Hey, when are you free to do something?" I would say, and give them my Ed TPA date and say that's when I'll be free to do stuff. But really, it's just kind of I think just being able to plan. Though I think once you plan and get a schedule in place, and you think about your schedule, and if you plan and if you're an effective planner, then you can find time to squeeze that in, plus a social life, plus time for yourself and time for your kids and planning. But planning was definitely a challenge. To have to learn to balance that with an internship was definitely one of the challenges, but doable.
Okay, so if you had the opportunity to give advice to anybody just starting out on the process, what bits of advice would you give them?
Oh, huge. I just start early. I think it's huge to start early and just at least start planning. And the biggest thing is understanding what Ed TPA is. I think the professors do a good job explaining it, but kind of tie up those loose ends, get those questions answered ASAP. I think in the summer, the sooner, once you understand what it is and you have the aha moment of this is what it's asking me to do, then you can do it pretty lickety-split quick. It's still got time commitment. You're just going to have a lot of time you have to put into it. But once you know what you're doing and you plan that out, and the sooner you can get your lessons planned, I feel the lessons planned out, know what you're going to teach, pick assessments, kind of, and check with your mentor teacher that this is like a good idea, that I'm on track with my idea. Then when you just start putting that stuff on paper, I think is the hugest thing. I think sometimes I'm a perfectionist and I don't want to move until things are perfect, but you got to just do it. Just get it on paper. And then, because I felt the best, when I started doing my best learning was when I was revising. And I was looking back and saying, oh, if I add this, and that's when the ideas came. But it wasn't until I got past that writer's block of getting it on paper first and then revision. You got all the time in the world to revise, but just get it on paper, the sooner the better, I think is the best advice I could give, just because that's when the ideas start coming. So,
If you had to explain to a colleague or someone in the community what Ed TPA is, what would you say to them?
hopefully it's not a dumb answer, but I would say just it's like a national certification. I know it's not completely right, but it's a just kind of a teaching credential. Kind of shows that you're probably an effective teacher. Just kind of how you would. I mean, I don't know if it's quite this intense because it's more for master students and stuff. Like when you pass an LSAT or you pass a GRE obviously this isn't going into a master's program, but it's just kind of saying that you are able to effectively teach. I think there's kind of something similar to that type of a cutoff type thing. So
Did you want to?
The very beginning of that, we need kind of
Yeah. So
Okay.
can you,
like the name of the test instead of just a
Yeah.
it.
yeah, okay,
So can you like give us a little bit of context to your answer?
just barely.
So yeah, kind of just talk about it again and say what it is, but say the name of it. And
Oh, EdTPA. Got it. So just say that again. Okay, yeah, I'll say you bet. Okay. So I felt that if I were explaining EdTPA to somebody in the community or somebody, a fellow colleague or something, I think I would tell them that EdTPA is something similar to like a GRE or something similar to an LSAT, some kind of an exam where if passed, it shows your proficiency as a teacher. Kind of something along those lines, even though it's not necessarily the same thing as a master's, getting into a master's program, but it is something that shows you are proficient. This is kind of your capstone, a culminating of everything you've done, your senior project. I would say it's something similar to that. So.
All right. Is there anything else as you think back on going through the whole process? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think again, just the idea of just getting it done as soon as possible on paper, ideas on paper, just starting to write, get those page limits as soon as possible so you can go through revision. As I think back on what other advice I'd give or other things I'd say, I think working with your mentor teacher and doing it sooner rather than later. Do not procrastinate the day of going to your mentor teacher to the end. And keeping a good attitude. You know, I think the biggest thing is just having a good attitude. And I think that's the same thing with the teaching profession and anything in teaching. The better attitude you have, the better and more enjoyable it's going to be. You got to do it. I mean, and I think you should reserve a few days to just say, okay, I'm going to take 2 hours to whine and complain and schedule that in. But then besides that, just have a good attitude and see how good of a job it can be. Because I think the better your attitude, the better an experience it's going to be for you. You will either learn stuff or it's just going to be busy work, and it's going to be dependent upon, I think, you and your attitude. It says a lot more about you than it does about EdTPA if you have an attitude that's, you know, and obviously you should complain here and there, but like, you know, it can stink. So schedule a little bit of time, but I really think a positive attitude is huge to having success. And helping other people understand maybe what it is as well, so they can kind of understand, you know, let them know it is a little bit rigorous, so they don't think like, what's this EdTPA? No, it's, you know, it's like a GRE or something, you know, it takes some time. And that's kind of, I don't know, some people harassed me because they didn't know what it was. I'm like, you guys don't get it, you guys. But yeah, so there's.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. That's
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Thank you.